record. I need you to tell me what you think, okay? What do you think about promoting learning? What do you think about this?
In what sense?
Well, I mean, promoting means, I guess, in the sense of making it possible and easier. And why not making it more friendly? Why not? We are recording, people. Then on YouTube.
Maybe it could be a bit challenging. I don't know. At least for the teacher.
Yes, but what do you think it means?
It could mean adapting it so it is engaging for your students.
Okay, how can you be engaging? Can you think of a technique or a strategy or a tool that could help you be engaging?
Well, body language in terms of, you know, smiling and the tone of the voice, but also the way you address the students, or for example, depending on where you sit or where you stand to talk to the students, they may perceive you as friendlier and more approachable. Whereas, for example, if you stood behind a desk, they would think you were a bit more
standoffish,
distant. Yeah. Perhaps, I don't know if that's connected.
Okay, well, that has to do with, let's say, positioning yourself, right, in the classroom, perhaps not just in one place, but to move around, okay? That is quite engaging. All right, can you think of anything else you want to mention before I show you the slide? Or the poster. In fact, I prepared the poster.
Contextualization as well.
Very good, Almiro. Yes, that is. What would you say it is? Would you say it is a strategy or a technique?
For me, maybe a technique, but I don't really know the difference.
Okay, that is one thing we are going to work on. In fact, there is something in the handout from Didáctica para Profesores de a Pie that it talks about that. So then I will let you know where to read, okay? Because I really don't know whether we will have enough time to develop that thoroughly, okay? But I will take that into consideration. Thinking about resources, right? Or tools. Then thinking about what? Thinking about techniques and strategies and tools. There is a difference, but perhaps I can prepare something about that for next class, right? Yes, you have mentioned some, let's say, important, let's say, considerations we have to take if we really want to promote learning, not only in the classroom, I would say, but beyond the classroom. And now when we talk about the classroom, we are talking about the virtual classroom, aren't we?
Well, yes, that's the new normal, I guess.
Yes, so yes, it is a new black. Okay, tell me, what do you, can you think of another one before I show you the poster? Let me see.
It's a bit connected, a little bit. Oh, sorry, Dalmira, go on.
Ahead,
Sorry,
Clara. Okay. Maybe we can promote learning by using different resources.
Okay, right.
Like
using
videos or songs.
Okay, that's it. Very good. Anything else you would like to, well, Sarina is writing there, perhaps relating the topic with their lives. Okay, right? That is anchoring, right? We call that, in a way, anchoring. Let me write it on the chat, just anchoring. All right? Well, I'll show you what I have prepared for today.
Sorry, can you spell the last word that you said? Because it doesn't appear in the chat.
It doesn't?
Not to me.
A-N-C-H-O-R-I-N-G.
Thank you.
Oh, it's not there? Oh, yes. Do you know what? My chat says everyone in the waiting room. I don't know why. It has changed. That's why everyone in the wait. I don't know why. Everyone in the meeting. Let's change it. I'll write it again. I don't know. Maybe the mouse moved. Let's see. Can you see it now? I changed the setting of the chat.
Yes.
Yes, thank
Sorry.
you.
In fact, I had written it, but to only the people in the waiting room. I don't know. Well, things that happen in Zoom. Well, in chapter 4, what I did is to, in a way, select some ideas, some concepts, and I just transcribed them. And then I have prepared a couple of questions for you to go on reading. Okay? Well, first it says, understanding or having an understanding of what makes an effective teacher is inevitably more complex than this, as well as awareness of the degree of match and mismatch between their espoused theories and their theories in action. Perhaps when they refer to more complex than this, it is referring to transmission of knowledge, right? But I wanted to pay attention to this. Awareness of the degree of match and mismatch between their espoused theories and their theories in action. What do you understand by this? You already know what espoused beliefs are and what theories in action are. Lune.
Hello? Can you?
Hello,
Yeah.
Lune.
I'm trying new microphones. Hello. So this would be something like the difference between the theory of your teaching and your teaching practice. That is to say,
Right. Very
what
good.
you believe your teaching persona is and what you actually do in the classrooms are different realms, and they do not always coincide.
And what is this awareness that we refer to? Is it easy to reach this awareness, to come to see it? Why not?
It depends, but for me at least, it's not easy at all to notice that your practice does not reflect what you believe teaching is.
That's it. In fact, it has to do with reflection, right? It is closely connected to this. I mean, when we talk about, let's say, teachers that in a way are standing, let's say, in a paradigm that is humanistic, right? Well, especially constructivist, constructivist one, well, there we have to point and let's say, and reckon that that we have to be reflective, right? That is not just making decisions, but then thinking about those decisions in the light of what? Of the theory we adhere, or we say we adhere, and what we have, let's say, why not experienced as former learners, right? But it's what you are referring to. Now, the problem is, when does this start? Perhaps when you, not just when you start teaching, but when you start planning, and it has already started. Now, to what extent do you think there was a match or a mismatch between your espoused theories and, your theories in action that were in a way reflected or that emerged in the lesson plans that you have prepared? I mean, of course, this has to be in a way discussed from the team, right? What do you think, Lionel, in your case? Did you read my comments?
Yeah, I did. Well, I was going to just reflect on me and Mauri's past experience last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that it's often the case that you usually reflect, well, your first lesson plannings just are in a way a recreation of how you were taught in school, in your own experience, and you think that you're implementing some sort of communicative approach, and you're actually just recreating archaic methodologies with the ones you learned, let's say. And it's not easy to see
yes,
that.
I agree with you. Mm-hmm. The thing is that sometimes you believe, or at least you feel, that this happens, right? Because you cannot connect theory, let's say, and teaching practice. Some people believe this, right? Some others believe that they cannot understand what, let's say, social interactionism and constructivist theories in a way foster in terms of learning, right? And what else? Some people believe that, let's say, the reproductive approaches are the best to be applied, right? And that's why they cannot leave aside this controlled practice. Why? Because they believe that if there is no controlled practice, there is no learning. It has to do with the conviction, right? Now, perhaps, I mean, it's not that you don't want to, or you can't, or let's say you are not, let's say, fully acquainted with the theoretical frame so as to be able to reflect on it and change it and curve the tide. In fact, it has to do with the process of undoing, right? Imagine that let's think of a metaphor or an analogy. We can think of, I mean, if you, let's say, find that you have a problem, right? And this problem brings about more problems in your life, right? And you think that you need somebody's counseling, what do? You go to either a psychologist or a coach or whoever, right? Now, what happens? You cannot think or you cannot expect that these, let's say, changes that you have to work on to make your, let's say, life more enjoyable will happen overnight. You will need somebody else to make you feel, to make you see, to make you aware, right, of what the problem is, but you are the ones that have to, in a way, work it out. Well, this is more or less the case, right? It's not that you don't want to, or you can't, or you don't know. No, it takes time. It's a process. I am sure that next time you plan, and perhaps this has happened to the people who have done a seminario before, right? Not just for the first time. Well, they are fully aware of many other things that happened before, and now it's different. They know what they have to bear in mind when thinking about promoting learning. Because the idea is that your lesson plans are targeted for learners, and they, let's say, have as a motto, promoting learning, right? I don't know if you get what I mean in terms of trying to find answers, perhaps to the fact that your lesson plans need revision. But I'm not talking to only one of you, most of you. It's very difficult to say that there is a lesson plan that is perfect. In fact, there is no perfect lesson plan because all the classes are different, teachers are different, and perhaps a lesson plan that is successful with a group of students is not with another, right? And then the same happens. With the same lesson plan, you can have a teacher with a lot of charisma. Remember, we talked about that at the beginning of the year, right? And in a way, makes that lesson more successful than another teacher performing the same lesson plan. That's why we say that whenever there is a teaching, let's say, plan, we should adapt it, right, to our own ways, right, and to the students, of course. That is to say, the students as a group, the students as individuals, right? Is there anything you want to contribute? I'm not just talking to one of you, I'm talking to all of you. No? Okay. Well, what about here? Second idea. It says, teachers need to understand also the many different ways in which their words and actions can influence the learning that occurs in the classroom. Can you think of anything that has happened or that was planned in your lesson plans that could influence words you said that could influence the learning in the classroom?
Maybe in my lesson plan, I wrote that I will, in a listening activity, I wrote that I will tell the students that it could be difficult. And in that way, maybe I'm conditioning the students to think that the activity is difficult.
Yes, is it Dalmiro who is speaking?
Yes, it's me.
Okay, Dalmiro, yes, it's true. But now you know and you are aware of that, right? And perhaps in the next version of your lesson plan, you are going to think about that, and perhaps in the future, you are going to be careful in the choice of words when you are referring to, let's say, a task. Perhaps it doesn't mean that you don't have to tell the students, well, this is more complex, this is challenging, this is not the, let's say, the ordinary type of activity that we're going to do. We are going to do something different. It means that perhaps we're going to take more time in solving it. I mean, this is what you have to be careful with, right? Because if not, you are sending a message that it's not, let's say, ill-intentioned, not at all, right? But it's good to, let's say, create a good predisposition from the part of the learners, right? Because otherwise they may feel that you are saying this because you really, let's say, deep inside believe that they are not capable. All right?
Yes.
Good,
All
right? But those are things that you always learn, right? Let's say when you're planning with your teacher trainers, right, with your peers. That is why I insist on working in teams or in pairs, because it helps you to, let's say, widen the scope and to come to see things that sometimes we on our own cannot see, right? Okay. Anybody else who can share something related to their actions or word or choice of words that could have affected the students? I made some remarks on some words that some of you used in the classroom?
Well,
Sandra?
Yes, who is that?
Oh, go.
Franco, all right.
Yeah, it's me. Sorry, I interrupted somebody. I was going to say that I always take into consideration the complexity of language when you are giving instructions or warming up or in any stage of the lesson. Since if you use a complex language, you might create, I mean, you might mislead students when it comes to activities and goals. And
you might even overwhelm them when you use complex, that is, let's say, complex words or complex structures when trying to give them the instructions. That's why sometimes I say try to simplify it to the level of proficiency of the students. It could be just above. What we say is, I don't know if you have heard about input plus one or roughly tuned input. Have you heard about that?
no, I haven't.
Is that connected with the zone of proximal development?
It is connected, right? Yes, Vygotsky refers to that, right? But
Right.
in fact, it derives from cognitivism. Sorry?
I was going to ask if input plus one isn't connected to Grasham's method.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Cognitivism.
Yeah, input is the input plus one is talking in the level of the students plus a little more, like challenging them, but not necessarily too much. Right?
Okay, right. I was trying to read what Emiliano said. Something we noticed is when asking the students to work in pairs, we would ask them to work with their friend. But what could make it misleading and make students think that they should roam around the classroom to find a friend in the classroom rather than working with their desk mate. Okay, right? And that affects classroom management. At the same time, that is what Emiliano said. And as you were saying, Clara, input plus one, it is what we have to, let's say, take into consideration when providing the students with input. That is to say, it should be something that the students can decode and understand. There may be words that they are not very familiar with, but they are comprehensible. That is what we call. You have roughly tuned input where there are, let's say, new words or language structures that students may not be familiar with, but they can be decoded, right? And then you have finely tuned input that has to do when generally we use it in tests. What is that? You just, let's say, prepare tasks or prepare instructions or use language that is at the level of comprehension, right, of students. Why? Because you don't want to put them under strain. When you give a test, your instructions, right, should be as clear as possible, and they have to be fair in this aspect, that they should be, let's say, easily decoded by the students. If you include input plus one in instructions, then you are in a way perhaps leading the students to make mistakes or to feel frustrated, right? Or uneasy because they think they cannot cope. That's why in tests, we generally do not advise teachers to use complex language. Now, just to give you a simple example, how can we simplify language? Well, is it necessary to say, do you think that you can tell me what you see in these pictures? Look at these pictures. What can you see? That's it. Because you sometimes, let's say, write in your lesson plans, let's say, words or phrases or questions for elicitation that are complex. And when sometimes, especially students at lower intermediate, hear a long, long sentence said at a very high speed, they are overwhelmed. No se entiende, no se entiende, no se entiende esto. So let's avoid that by being simple and effective. It's just that, right? It's not underestimating them, because instructions should be clear, right? Because they are the key to the teaching proposal you have devised. That is to say, they are the ones that are going to open that door. Okay? If you want the students to go in, right? Well, they have to feel that they will be safe inside that room. Okay? Do you want to, oh, we're running out of time again. We have 10 minutes left and then we resume the other session. Do you want to make any comments as regards this? Well, there was something, or at least I noticed that you wrote, let me see if I can find the chat, this word when you were addressing the students. And I wrote informal. Right? I don't remember exactly who. There were several groups that used that. And some others used this. Guys, can you see that?
Yes.
Is it wrong to address the students that way? Would you say that I'm old-fashioned?
Personally,
Isn't
I
it too
don't think it's
friendly?
wrong.
It's not wrong, not at all. But you need to have a degree of intimacy with the students to address them like that. So I wrote too informal for you to, I wanted to explain to you why. Because, I mean, you need to at least have a kind of relationship with the students after some time when you start addressing them more informally. So it is not advisable to do it from the very start. Okay, why? Because especially with teenagers at this age, it's not that we have to draw a line. We have to, let's say, keep things clear and keep roles the way they should be in the class. All right? That's to say, teachers have a role, learners have a role, there must be a democracy, right? And all that, but perhaps at the beginning to build respect and to state, let's say, until you reach, let's say, this reciprocity and harmony, it takes some time. So that's why, I mean, we need to be careful in the choice of words that we make. All right, just because of that, I don't think at all that a teacher cannot address in a warm way, let's say, their students. Not at all, but not at the beginning. At least until you get to know them and you know that that will not be, let's say, misunderstood. See my point? Just that. Okay? There is something in the chat there. Let me see, because I have to open the chat as I am sharing the screen. No, just students, people. Okay, I just call them, sometimes I call them pupils, right? People too, students. Okay. just at the beginning, right? Until you really feel that you can be more informal with them, and that won't be, let's say, taken as, I mean, as a teacher that does not, let's say, impose any kind of respect. Because the problem is, I don't think it will be wrong with children, because children do not, let's say, trespass limits. The problem is this age. Remember that your target were adolescents between 14 and 15. They are difficult ones. Okay, they are difficult ones. That's why. Perhaps if you had written that with children in a children class, I wouldn't have written anything. Okay, right? Something on the chat, let me check. I really don't understand. Maybe they will think you are trying too hard. What, trying too hard what? I don't understand that, Sarina, what you mean.
Trying too hard to be cool or something like that, maybe?
Well, in fact, that is why, I mean, I guess that there is no answer to say when can we be informal or not. That much depends on the type of rapport you build and how quick you build it. Just think about that, right? I mean, and I guess that you will be, when time comes, you will be wise enough to, let's say, address the students the best way you think it can be done in the lesson, right? Now, remember that this is like a hybrid lesson plan, so that is, let's say, meant to be on, let's say, stereotypes of students. You may have very hostile groups of teenagers that are between 14 and 15, or you may have very friendly ones. That much depends on the group. Right? That is something we cannot foresee, but at least let's play safe. Okay? Well, then it says, teachers can affect learning in a range of ways that go far beyond the transmission of knowledge. Teaching learners how to learn, boosting their confidence, motivating, displaying a personal interest, enhancing self-esteem, organizing an appropriate learning environment. My question is, we have 3 minutes remaining time. My question is, how much of this do you think was there in your lesson plans? Perhaps not everything, right? It's difficult to, let's say, pinpoint each of these, let's say, ideas and spot them in a lesson plan that is not a lesson that has been done, that has been carried out. It's just a project, right? We can say that we are trying to enhance self-esteem by doing such and such, by including, all right? But I guess that some of these are long-term, let's say, goals, like boosting students' confidence. Now, I would like you to think about this for 5 minutes, right? And we are going to discuss it. So how much of these, right, items, let's say, were, let's say, in your mind when you were planning your lesson? Okay, do you think you can answer that? It takes time.
We can try.
All right, so the idea is, I'm going to let you think. You can perhaps mute yourselves Think about this, and when we resume, we discuss.
Okay.
When we start the session again, we discuss, because it's about to finish.
Okay.